Imagine this. Archaeologists unearth a crumbling stone tablet, thousands of years old. On it, etched in fading symbols, is a story of a flood so massive it swallowed entire continents. For centuries, people dismissed it as a legend, until science proved the oceans really did rise and erase whole civilizations at the end of the Ice Age. That's the moment myth stopped being just story, and became history. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the day myths became science. Take fire. The Greeks said Prometheus stole it from the gods. Sounds like fantasy, but what if fire was simply their way of describing the first great human invention, the moment our ancestors mastered flames a million years ago? Archaeologists now confirm this was humanity's first technology, the spark that shaped civilization. What looked like divine theft was survival turned into science. But here's where it gets stranger: flood myths. They appear in almost every culture: the Bible's Noah, Mesopotamia's Utnapishtim, India's Manu. For centuries, scholars said these were just symbolic. Yet geologists now point to real, sudden floods that raised sea levels by hundreds of feet, swallowing coastlines worldwide. Were these myths just eyewitness reports, remembered through story until science caught up? And it doesn't stop there. Consider lightning. To the Greeks, it was Zeus's weapon. To the Norse, Thor's hammer. Today we know it's raw electricity, but think like an ancient, a blinding strike from the sky that splits trees and ignites fires. Wouldn't you call that the hand of a god? Maybe these myths weren't superstition at all, they were the first scientific theories, wrapped in story. And what about creatures? Ancient China is full of dragon myths. Pure fantasy, right? Except, those same regions are packed with dinosaur fossils. Imagine a villager stumbling across a massive skull with teeth longer than his hand. Wouldn't dragon be the only word that made sense? So here's the question: were dragons just myth, or were they science in disguise? It gets even darker. The Mahabharata, an Indian epic, describes a weapon with searing heat, blinding light, and fallout so deadly rivers were poisoned. Sound familiar? That's almost identical to eyewitness reports of nuclear explosions. Now, were they really talking about nukes? Probably not. But maybe it was a memory of a meteor strike, described in the only language they had: gods, curses, fire from the heavens. And if some myths line up this well with science, how many others are waiting to be proven true? Let's go deeper. Genetics tells us humanity nearly went extinct once, reduced to just a few thousand survivors. That's not speculation, that's written in our DNA. And suddenly, those myths of a chosen few saved from disaster sound less like fantasy and more like memory. Even the story of humans made from clay, told in the Bible, Sumerian myths, and beyond, matches something modern science has uncovered. Under the right conditions, amino acids and organic molecules can form on clay surfaces. In other words, life really can spring from clay. Coincidence, or an ancient truth hidden in myth? Here's the big reveal: myths and science are not enemies. Myths were our ancestors' first way of making sense of a world they couldn't measure. Science is just the language we've upgraded to. And every so often, the two overlap, reminding us that stories we once called fantasy may have been fragments of truth all along. So the next time you hear a story about gods, monsters, or world-ending floods, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, what piece of forgotten science might still be hidden inside? And now I'll leave you with this: which myth do you think is most likely to turn out true? Drop your answer in the comments, I'll be reading them all. And if this journey through myth and science pulled you in, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because next time, we're exploring the lost language carved into stone walls, messages humanity still can't read. Because sometimes, myths aren't lies. They're warnings we've been too slow to understand.